So yesterday I talked some about thinking about launching, and not just launching, but how to approach releasing a game in a different kind of way. So first, in a very standard way, you should pick up Little Kitty Big City that comes out today from my friend Matt, who I worked on Half-Life Episode 1, a bunch of games. We did a Portal 2 co-op together as well. But that looks fun. But so kind of the feedback on some of the thoughts around that is, quickly, even myself, like free is a problematic way to ever release a game, just because it devalues the game. It puts competition for a game against other people who are charging for money. So it's devaluing the market itself. And as well as, one of the ways that I think people underestimate how much traffic gets driven to game pages and games is through Steam itself. And one of the biggest levers for Steam that you have is putting your game on sale. And that will quadruple your sales for that week, just by you putting it on sale, let alone partaking in another sale. And so if you're free, you can't do that. So you kind of lose that lever as well. I just keep thinking of, if you have a thing that you want to express a thought and have more people experience it, how do you do that and kind of balance it, right? There's a whole also itch.io, and you can see that, even putting your game free on there or pay what you want doesn't help you reach an audience, which is what you want to do. Again, I don't take money as a marker for success, but I do take money as a thing of hey, if I get more money doing this thing, I will do more of that, right? No matter kind of what. I would like to make more of these. I would like to work with more people. How do we do that? And that kind of goes on that path. There's also an interesting discussion of someone who had done this exact thing, giving away for free, but charged money for a DLC, a soundtrack. They're in our Discord, discord.gg/StrayBombay. There's now a section there for videos where we talk about these videos. And it's Discord sloppy, unthreaded, because threaded, you just lose conversations, and I don't like that. But so for now, it's in there. Which was interesting is a lot more downloads, 10-fold, 20-fold more downloads than people played the game. If people played the game, the conversion was actually fairly decent. But most people just downloaded it and didn't play it, which is a pretty common thing, right? But it was an interesting conversation. You can catch more of it there. I don't want to put words into his mouth. He was nice enough to do that. I would play their game, but I think, is that the game? One of the games that we were talking with this week doesn't have an option screen. And if I can't change the aspect ratio, it just gets weird when I stream it, and I don't want to make it look bad. I don't know. But it's also a lot about perceived value through cost. I think everybody looks at a 99-cent game and thinks it's a 99-cent game, or $4.99. Once you charge $10, then you're in the realm of people think it could be some level of good and maybe just on sale. The Anacrusis is $10 now. We chose that price because we had talked with a lot of people in the community of what price would be that if you were playing it and you were loving it and you wanted a friend to join you, that they would just buy it. And it was under $10 US, right? Whatever that translates to. And so that's why we priced it there, because we wanted you just to be able to buy it and play with a friend. I still, for that game, just want you to play it. It's fine. And so that's where that price went. And then we'll put it on sale and we go down to $4.99, which is an incredible deal. We'll probably do that again this month. At some point, I'm probably going to try $2.99, $1.99 just to see. I don't know. Someone gave their game away for free the other day. That was interesting. When we did our free weekend, our back end had a problem. So all of this is, you're talking about experience, and you're talking about feedback, and you're talking about this loop and how you learn every time you do something. And we did a free weekend, and our free weekend did not perform well enough to get another free weekend, because I want to play by the rules that everyone else does on Steam. And the reason was, our back end provider at the time, if you were a new player, it wouldn't match you into games. Oh, you want to talk about and we didn't realize what was going on at first. But if you want to just talk about things you lose your mind over when making games, that's one. That took a long time to get fixed. Other conversations about, hey, Jank is okay if you explain the Jank, meaning you either contextualize it up front that there's going to be jank in it, or you just open and honest about it. Partially this comes from a conversation after we released Anacrusis, which is a bunch of very expensive bespoke art in that world. People being like, oh, this is an asset flip. And I'm like, I think you're saying that in the same way you call me a communist. You don't really know what that word means. But equally, if you can't see the value in this bespoke art, does it matter? And I mean, look at like all the fantasy kind of builder games. Like Manor Lords, I'm not knocking, but like Manor Lords just looks good, but it doesn't look new or different. If you told me all their characters came from an asset pack, I wouldn't care. I never care, but like really there, right? And so it's more again the game, which then comes to the problem of, a lot of games you'll see like on Twitter. Don't go on Twitter, it's horrible. But other places where you'll see like just little clips, right? People in Reddit will post just like a little clip or a little animated GIF. And those really catch your eye. Those are like really exciting, or the look, the art style. And now, not to knock this game, you can play it yourself. I'm just going based on reviews and my own experience. Harold Halibut. I was super excited about that game. It's all like, I think, handcrafted and like with models, and it's just beautiful and weird and crazy looking. But the gameplay is lacking. But they can get the hype generated because you don't know the gameplay. You just know the art. So if it is about the gameplay, well, okay. How do you show the gameplay? And then if it's about the gameplay, again, my sense is I was saying I know I'm making a problem for myself because I think what I want to make is this thing that's a bunch of things, but the meta over them is what makes it special and different and the story I want to tell, which makes that really hard because even if you're like having people play test the little parts, unless they get the whole, they're not going to get the whole experience and it won't be the same. So I'm creating a problem for myself there, but I could let the people play the individual parts and make sure those are fun, because if you are going to have a collection of things, everything has to be fun. I guess it could be dreary and sad, but everything has to be impactful in some way. You can't have bad things. Nobody wants to do boring or bad things. And in fact, Harold Halibut does this thing where you have to solve a puzzle, and at the end of it, you didn't have to solve the puzzle and you get made fun of for solving the puzzle. And that is just such a slap into player time. I always think of like respecting people's time. I respect your time on these videos. I respect your time when you play my games. So I kind of try to keep these short, even though I ramble. And so the same thing with that. And you want to do that. Again, not to pick on Harold Halibut, but there we are. And so then how do you show, those things? And then we get to one more thing, and then I'll get to the big overlying thing, I think, that this comes down to. And so then people are asking about fundings and grants and for art. And you see that a lot for art and movies. But movies employ a lot of people. To give you some kind of weird stat, I think it's something like 300,000 people get employed by games in the US, but 2.5 million get employed by movies. So cities will often try to attract movies to their cities because they want that revenue, that people getting jobs. But it's also they have to physically be there in games, especially as we're working remotely. We lose that. And we're all remote, and who cares where you're set up? New Orleans is still a city that tries to do that, but they've not had a lot of success, I don't think. I'm trying to remember if anybody's been a big hit out of that. But like some people try, but it's not. But I really learned this when we were launching VR. So if you don't know, I was the person behind kind of picking what, me and Gus, but kind of led the charge on picking what was in the demos for the original Vive demo that happened at GDC and Mobile World Congress. Doug Church also helped a bunch. But with that, decided kind of early on not to have a bunch of gun games. Instead, have a bunch of more artistic experiences. Have things that are less gun-driven, because I figured that'll come anyways, but just try to broaden what this space could be, so it's just not looked at as a game tool, but something bigger and broader. New guns would come, games like that would come, so we didn't have to do that. And so with that, I ended up talking to a lot of museums, I talked to a lot of art galleries, and trying to set up either funding or shows. And a lot of people would trade shows because they thought it would bring in eyeballs, but they wouldn't fund. And that was a pretty common thing. And then sometimes people would gather together and fund. So actually I think I'm gonna make another video on the big problem and just leave it at that for kind of covering the feedback and thanking you all for the feedback. Again, I make these videos to try to have a conversation about it. And I appreciate this conversation. I think on TikTok I'm allowed to do longer videos now. So actually I'm gonna go a little longer I don't want to make a second video. That's weird. And I'm not gonna edit this, I'm lazy. So I realized I still come from the old school in a lot of, I am gonna make a starter video for this because I think it's a good point on its own. It's about pride and sharing early. So I'm gonna cut that here, and I'll make that either later today or tomorrow.